Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel who take every single word that I say as actual gospel, because everything I say is so factually true, it actually would cause you to go mentally insane if you focused on how true it was. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Prey. Now, one of the reasons that we're talking about this is that I had previously done a video on the trailer Prey, and some people are angry at that video because the movie came out and the movie was in fact better than the trailer. And for some reason, despite the fact that I put trailer in the title, in the thumbnail, and in the tags of the video, the hashtags below the video, so it says it there 3 times, a bunch of people are leaving me comments telling me how wrong I was about the movie and how it was wrong of me to judge the movie based on the trailer, even though, first of all, trailers are intended to get you to want to see the movie. They're supposed to get you to see a slice of it so that you'll see it. And my video was clearly a response to the trailer and not the movie. But before we get into that, before I tell you where I was right and where I was wrong in that previous video related to this movie, we got a sponsor, so I'm going to toss it over to the sponsor. Let's do this tossing motion like we're tossing a baby, and then we'll bring it back over here, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. There is a new study out, 1,100 participants, and the data strongly suggests that collagen can help reduce the signs of aging. We're talking wrinkles, we're talking better looking hair, we're talking better looking nails, and this is one of the reasons why I've been taking collagen for so long, because I believe this to be working, and now it's backed up by the science. But not all collagen powders are created equal. There's actually 5 different collagen types, and the ones that you'll find at the store often won't even have more than one of them. This is why I highly recommend Health with Justice. This powder is the tops, and the great thing about it is it's so easy to use. 1 scoop every single day. You can do it with your smoothie in the morning. I do it with my coffee because it does a weird thing to my coffee and I kind of like it, and you can get the effects of reduced aging signs, skin elasticity, reduced wrinkles, better hair, nail, and skin. All can be yours for 50% off at healthwithjustice.com. 60-day money-back guarantee. That is healthwithjustice.com. So, if you aren't aware, the movie Prey was released on Hulu, and it's actually gotten pretty solid reviews. On Rotten Tomatoes, it is sporting a score over 90%, and on Metacritic, it is somewhere around 67%. Now, remember, Rotten Tomatoes gives you a positive score, points towards that 92. If you get better than a 6 out of 10 or a 3 out of 5 stars, whatever metric they actually use. So even though it has a 90%, that doesn't mean that the critics are saying it's a 9 out of 10. That means that 9 out of 10 critics are saying that it's at least a 6 out of 10. So let's get that straight so that you guys can understand it. And honestly, I watched the movie, and there were a lot of things within the movie that I did like. However, the idea that this movie is on par with the original, which by the way, I didn't expect, even if it was good, for it to be on par with the original, because that's basically impossible, or is somehow this amazing, stellar, great movie rather than a good movie and good for Hulu because it's on Hulu and you can watch it for free, is a bit absurd. There's a lot of weird things with this movie. There's issues with it being boring in some parts, and there's points of the movie where they're insulting you as members of the audience. But before we get into any of that, let's talk about the things that were actually good. And first and foremost, the native actors in this movie were actually really good. There's a brother of our main character that I really liked, and apparently he hasn't been in anything before this, so he was cast for this movie. He did a good job playing the character that he was playing, and he is actually the kind of person, and the movie plays into this, that is fighting against the Predator, or would be fighting against the Predator. The second thing that I liked, and this was something that I criticized in my preview of this movie when I was talking about the trailer, is the idea that the Predator does follow its rules and goes after the alpha animals. I very specifically talked about how the Predator would not be able to fight this girl after seeing her in these vulnerable places based on his principles, because he hunts the strong, potential danger people that are available. He doesn't hunt the weak people, and it actually followed these rules in this movie. So the Predator was actually underestimating our main character, which ultimately led to her victory. The third thing I appreciated about this movie is that the member berries, the references to the original Predator, were actually kept at a minimum. One of the things that I absolutely hate about these soft reboots, prequels, sequels, whatever you want to call them, are the fact that they constantly over-reference the original, and in this movie, they basically had the "if it bleeds, you can kill it" line, and they had a reference to Predator 2, which is kind of silly, but honestly was actually corrected in the movie if you watch the credits of the movie. And I guess the fourth thing, if I haven't made this clear, is that the story was very simplified. It didn't have a bunch of subplots, and honestly, the messaging about girl empowerment really fit within the story and was only clunky in a few awkward parts. And in fact, if you trim those parts out, then you got a pretty decent story. This is essentially Mulan mixed with the Predator movies, and I'm talking about the animated good version of Mulan, which kind of works in a weird way, and I think that that's pretty cool. Also, I wanted to give this movie credit for actually releasing it in Comanche, so you could watch it in Comanche, because I heard rumors about them actually putting the movie out there and reshooting it so that it could be in the other language, but in reality, that's not the case, and the subtitles are really awkward throughout the course of the movie. But now that we got all the stuff that I enjoyed out of the way, now that we got the positives out of the way, let's go to the negatives of the movie that actually bothered me, and we'll go from smallest to biggest. So one of the things I can't stand about movies, and I always talk about it in reference to movies, is when I feel like the movie is insulting me, when they're treating me like I'm stupid, when they're showing me the same information over and over again, even though I got it after the first time. Now, to be clear, this has nothing to do with the fact that you go into this movie, for the most part, with prior knowledge of how the Predator works, what the rules are, etc., etc. This is all contained within the movie because I understand as an individual movie, you have to set up things individually in your movie. And by the way, if we're going to add something to the positives, there were a lot of good setups and payoffs, including a misdirect that looked like a member berry that ended up turning into something different. But what I'm specifically talking about is the fact that the Predator is shown to us, the audience, about 4 or 5 times to be only targeting the alpha predator in this situation. And it is first shown to us when the Predator kills a CGI snake after it eats a CGI mouse. Then it's shown to us again when the Predator attacks a wolf after it kills a rabbit. And then it is shown to us a third time when the Predator attacks a bear that's attacking the girl in the trailer. Then it's shown to us a fourth time when the Predator attacks the male Native Americans that are beating the girl Native American. And then it is shown to us a fifth time, and at that point, the character outright states that the Predator does not hunt for bait, the Predator hunts the alpha situation. So we're told the same information about 5 times during the course of the movie, and that's just not necessary. You're basically hand-holding the audience. I think a part of this is so that they could cut away to the Predator doing something throughout the course of the film. And honestly, this is one of the minor nitpicks of the movie that gave me some issues. Didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, not a very good thing. There's also a bunch of bad CG animals throughout the course of this movie, but honestly, even though some of it is noticeably bad, like for instance the bear, that wasn't something that bothered me so much because I understand that this is a Hulu movie, so the budget is going to be reduced. But the thing that really annoyed me is that a lot of people emphasize the gore that was featured in this movie, the blood, the body parts being chopped off, etc., etc. So I kind of got hyped on the idea that we were going to see some interesting kills by the Predator, but in reality, all of the kills were heavily CG'd, amputations, etc., etc., and those looked awful. If the animals all look consistently absurdly fake and it's comical to a certain extent, then that might be fine, but once you have the humans being amputated and the blood of the humans all being computer generated and really noticeable, that's the kind of stuff that bothers me, especially when the Predator, the original Predator, is such a masterpiece in practical effects. So seeing the mess of CGI across the screen, even excusing the animals as a minor nitpick, but in the gore, just not fun. Just give me some real blood in the movie so that I can enjoy the realism of the movie. Also, and I've heard this pointed out time and time again, anytime you go back in time and have weird CG, it looks way worse when you're in a past setting. Also, they could have shot the movie in such a way that the movie looked more like it took place in the past. Maybe shoot it in a similar way that previous Native American films were shot in this country. So those are just some suggestions that would have improved the movie, but overall, they didn't tarnish it completely for me because overall, my main issues with the movie is that I was kind of bored during the course of it, and the characters were not great in this film. Also, one of the things that I was dead right about, well, not technically dead right about, was the impact of the dog on the storyline, because the dog is what all dogs in all movies that are poorly written is there for. It's to make you feel sympathetic towards the main character and to be put in peril and or killed so that you can be like, oh no, not the dog. And in this movie, the dog scene is so unbelievably comical that it was actually hilarious. And in order to understand this, you have to understand the evil white people that are in the movie, because I did say in my previous review that the white people were going to turn out to be just like the Predator or the real Predators or just really bad, nasty people. And this movie honestly escalated well beyond what I was even expecting. Now, there is a film purpose where this could fit, but I'm going to explain why in the ideology of the filmmakers, it doesn't make sense to use that as an excuse. So the French fur trappers, they are from France, speak French the whole time. It's not subtitled, which really annoys me because I want to know what they're saying. And they're basically presented as dirty, filthy, disgusting savages throughout the course of this movie. Now, the movie is shot from the Native American point of view. So it actually makes sense for them to see them as these foreigners that are totally different from them and their culture. So I do understand that from a filmmaking standpoint. However, Native Americans were typically depicted from a Western point of view in movies that were released in the United States. And the exact thing that they're trying to combat in this movie is those negative forms of representation for Native Americans. So when that is your goal, that's your stated mindset, to be respectful to the culture that is Native Americans, because you feel like demonizing them was really bad for them and led to excuses for violence towards them, then you doing the exact same thing, making the Europeans the real savages, really contradicts that ideologically, even if it makes sense within the context of the film. On top of that, there's actually a scene or series of scenes where the Predator's skinning a bunch of animals, and then our little girl main character stumbles on a bunch of buffaloes that are skinned, and you're led to believe, if you're stupid and you've never seen any movie ever, and you ignore the setup of the bear traps throughout the course of the movie, that maybe the Predator skins all the buffaloes, but of course, it's the evil, white, bad people that did it. Now, this was unintentionally funny for a number of reasons. First and foremost, of course, you have the evil bad people doing the killings in a similar way as the Predator. It was a trophy hunt, where in this case, it was a hunt for the fur of the buffaloes. Second, it is revealed in a dramatic line, even though we all knew that the Predator wasn't going to kill all of these buffaloes in the course of the movie because they're non-predatory animals, that, oh my god, you're the ones who killed all the buffaloes. Which leads us to our third thing, which is hilarious, because it is a stereotype that Native Americans used absolutely every single part of the buffalo, when in reality, if you look at how the buffalo almost went extinct, the Native Americans were killing them and selling them to the Europeans, or selling them to Americans, because the time that they were really in peril was during the Industrial Revolution, when there was such high demand for leather, and the Native Americans would kill about 250,000 of these creatures a year, and they would also kill a bunch more for Americans in order to sell them on the market. So this idea that the natives are spiritually connected to the buffalo specifically, and that they use every single part, and they would be offended and emotionally disturbed by wasting any single part of the buffalo, is actually playing into a hilarious stereotype. Also, if you needed this hammered home even more for you, that the Europeans are savages that don't respect the environment, there's a forest that's completely burned down. I actually have a clip of it from the trailer, and it was clearly burned down for no apparent reason by these evil Europeans, because they hate the environment and they don't respect nature like the Native Americans, which again is a stereotype of the Native Americans, but I guess because the left is obsessed with faux environmentalism, therefore, them being tied to nature is actually a good thing. But this was just funny during the course of this movie, and again, to go back to our original starting point, which is the dog, at one point, these Europeans steal her dog, they tie a muzzle around it, and when she goes into the camp of the Europeans, they're trying to escape from the Predator because it's already slaughtered a bunch of their own ranks, and they decide that they're going to pull out a giant knife and stab the dog to death, because they're trying to get away from the Predator, and you might as well kill the dog. And this causes our main character to spring into action and kill a bunch of these Europeans. Again, very, very dumb person type of, we need to demonize these people with a dog, exactly why I hate having dogs in movies, and it just made me crack up. I wasn't even bothered by it because it was so funny and over the top. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you're dealing with in terms of the depiction of the Europeans and the use of the dog as a substitute for actual character development and actual motivation. That being said, our girl character is not a Mary Sue. Now, I never called her that in the trailer. I never said that, and I almost never say that criticism, because I feel like that's one of the most overplayed things that people do when they don't know a lot about movies, but they hear YouTube reviewers say the word Mary Sue. She is somebody who struggles throughout the course of the film and ultimately reaches her goal of gaining status, and the way that she beats the Predator, even though there's some goofy fighting between her and the Predator and some amazing dodges and all that, is mostly through creativity and intelligence and her trying to think around problems based on some of her physical limitations that other characters or other warriors in her tribe would not necessarily need to do. And this is set up repeatedly throughout the course of this movie. So credit where credit is due in that regard. If you remember, my original video was not criticizing her for being overpowered or whatever. My video was actually criticizing her for being underpowered, because the whole point of the original Predator is that they stacked the cast with all these 80s super action heroes. They show them devastating the rebels in the opening scene, which shows them at the height of their powers, because Predator follows a thing where you're at the top, you get brought down, and then you have to struggle your way back to defeat the Predator. That's the whole point of the original movie. This movie had an interesting twist on it, where they were taking somebody who is not even acknowledged as a threat by the Predator. You could call her prey, but not even acknowledged as legitimate prey by the Predator, and she used that to her advantage to overcome the animal. Now, if we would have just left it there, I would give this movie a solid C+. I would understand why this has such positive reviews from most people, because allegorically, the sexism being overcome in this movie definitely works. The idea that the Predator examines the situation and doesn't see her as a threat, and she ultimately overcomes that and surprises the Predator, which again is not the Predator necessarily being sexist, it's just him observing how different relationships between animals work and observing her as somebody who's not in a dominant position in the relationship. Totally fits, totally understandable. And again, if they didn't actually explicitly state the sexism a couple of times in awkward ways, this would have played really well to people out there in the audience, or played well to me who's paying attention to the things that are happening in the movie. However, there's an actual scene in the movie where they tell this girl to basically get back in the kitchen, and it's hilarious, and it made me laugh, but it's not the kind of laughter you're trying to generate from the movie. And there's a couple other things mixed in with good things that just kind of kill the messaging, because they try to overemphasize the messaging. For instance, there's a great scene where she drops a bucket of water that you can see all the other women are carrying to the river, and she walks the opposite way of all the other women. And they didn't say anything. There was no clunky, awkward dialogue or anything like that. But you understand, if you have an IQ, above 10, that she's doing the opposite path. It's a symbolic visual, like, film is a visual medium with visual storytelling, that doesn't need to be legitimately just spelled out for you like you're a dumb idiot. And that's great, and I wish they would have kept the movie more like that. However, sometimes they legitimately spell out the movie for you like you're a dumb idiot, and that's what I don't like. Also, the character that I said that was really good, the guy, I think his name is Dakota Beavers, the Native American, the brother, who is not portrayed as this monster. There are over-the-top sexist people in the native side, and of course there are the animals that are the Frenchmen, but this guy is actually portrayed as a good dude, and he's not basically brought down into incompetence in order to elevate the female counterpart. He randomly just, leaves the movie for no reason. He's successfully fighting the Predator as successfully as you can as a human, showing off his stuff. He grabbed a horse so he can get an advantage against the Predator, and then he tells the girl, again, so this would be the 6th or 7th time this information is communicated to us, that the Predator doesn't see her as a threat, and therefore she can get the advantage to trap the Predator, just like with the lion, because he followed her plan from earlier in the movie, and then he kind of stands still just to be killed by the Predator, and the line that he says is listen, I read the script, this is as far as I go, good luck to you, I hope you win. And I feel like he could have escaped this situation and maybe worked with her, or maybe worked with her on her plan that he didn't seem like he wanted to do earlier on with this whole lion situation, but that didn't happen. This guy needed to leave the movie, and it's unfortunate because I actually liked his character, and I like this guy as an actor. And it was comical because I was like, wait a minute, is he just going to stand there while the Predator walks up behind him and kills him? And the answer to that question is in fact yes. By the way, spoiler alert, that was a spoiler. Let me give you the spoiler alert after the fact, just so you guys know. And those kind of things made me laugh. But overall, the movie's kind of, mediocre to passable. It's better than the last movie, the Shane Black movie, which treated the lore as a joke and also has the bullets bouncing off of the Predator nonsense, which does not go with the premise of the movie. Again, one of the most iconic lines in the first movie is, if it bleeds, you can kill it. It is repeated in this line. And that's what makes the Predator more interesting, is that you do potentially maybe have a chance against this thing, although likely you're going to die going up against it. It's you fighting an apex predator. It's kind of like the joy or, the intrigue when you're watching a nature show or nature documentary and like the wolves are going after a moose or maybe after a deer, and the deer has some ability to fight back even though the wolf is a superior animal or superior hunter and is more likely to kill the deer than not. So sometimes you watch that for the intrigue because maybe the deer gets out of the situation. You get what I'm saying. You understand what I mean. Now, as far as me admitting to being wrong and taking down my previous video, which again was a response to the trailer, not to the movie, and it was me judging the trailer, not the movie. You should always know that there could be a different movie that comes out and the trailer is not necessarily accurate. See the second Green Lantern trailer, which makes the movie look fantastic, and then Green Lantern. You're not getting nothing from me, because even though there were some things that I was wrong on, that I did predict incorrectly, for instance, the context of the bear scene, even though I talked about how the Predator should go after the bear instead of her, that was actually in the movie, so the writers actually knew what they were doing in that scenario. In that case, I was wrong. But a lot of my predictions were jokes, and my more joking predictions were the closer to accurate ones. For instance, I legitimately said that the girl was going to team up with the Predator and kill the Europeans. That actually did not happen, but the scene of the Predator killing the Europeans is followed up by the girl killing the Europeans. So they're on the same side, even though they're not working together in that instance. Also, the Predator's not attacking them because they're presented as bait in that instance, and therefore not a threat. So, those things did happen in the movie. This was way less member berries, as I said earlier, than I would have guessed in the movie, so I was wrong on that. But overall, my original video was about the trailer. This is about the movie, so these are my thoughts on the movie. Now, with all that being said, I do have some quick announcements that I want to get to, which is that this show, this exact video format, is available in audio format after popular demand for people out there in the audience, just like you watching to this video right now, on Spotify and on Apple's podcasting platform. It will eventually be available on Google Podcasts, but we're working out the technical difficulties. I got somebody who's actually converting my backlog to make it available on those platforms. So if you want to watch or listen, to be more accurately, on those platforms, go over and subscribe. The links are in the description. You can also search Actual Justice Warrior, and all the stuff is going to be available. And don't worry, I'm not changing the format or anything like that to be better suited to podcasts. It's just a new way to consume the content if that's what you want to do. Also, over the past week, I asked my girlfriend to marry me. She said yes, so now I'm engaged. So you could send your congratulations, whatever, in the comments if you want to. But that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social media. Support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about the Prey movie and my response to the people who are mad about my trailer review, whatever. Till next time.